Hey, today we are talking about the wars
of the roses.
and the religious conflicts. We are going to keep it simple, interesting, entertaining, fun. So we need to start with the two houses. So there were two houses, the house of
York
and the house of
Lancaster.
yes, and they both had their own symbols.
Yeah. What Henry VII did was put the white rose with the red rose, which made the Tudor rose.
Yes, because the red rose was the symbol of the house of Lancaster.
Apparently.
And he was.
Lancaster.
And then the white rose was the
Other one.
the house of York.
York. He married one of the princesses of York, so that he joined the two families, the two houses, and made the Tudor rose. And so, in theory, that stopped the two factions fighting. They were united under Henry VII in the House of Tudor, sometimes known as the Wars of the Cousins, because they were all related, and it's like a mammoth family row, which ended up in a lot of bloodshed and went on for years and years. And in the end, Henry VII won.
It happened in 1458.
Yeah.
The Battle of
Bosworth. Can I
Good.
just say,
Yes.
Richard III, Hunchback Shakespeare, was killed on the battlefield, and nobody knew what happened to his body. About 5 or so years ago, don't press me on that, a woman whose name I've forgotten said, "I know where his body is, it's there," which was, she said,
Car park.
under the car park, at the back of a pub or council offices or something, and everyone wanted to be silly. And she said, "No, it's there." And they dug, and the first time they put a spade into that concrete of the car park, there was his skeleton. And no one had ever known it was there. It had been at the back of a church, which had subsequently been demolished. And they found his body and discovered he did have scoliosis, which is a disease of the spine. Absolutely fascinating.
How did she know?
I don't know. I don't think anyone knows.
Did she say that what?
She looked into the map and said, well, there was a church there. There's a very good chance that they buried him there. Or whatever. I don't know, but she was right. They made a film about it.
So there was these Wars of the Roses.
Yes.
And then there were
Skin.
religious conflicts. And then after Henry VII came Henry VIII.
His son was
There
Henry
are
VIII.
many kings and queens in the British history, but Henry VIII is probably the most famous.
Yes. Yeah, for some reason.
So
Yeah.
what did he do?
Which bit do you want? The Reformation?
Probably. Let's start with the Reformation.
Okay. He wanted a divorce, and the Pope wasn't going to give it to him.
So
that's
he
the only way
had,
you
he's
could get a
famous
divorce.
for having,
6 wives
yes. And the first one was Catherine
of Aragon.
Aragon, and he wanted to divorce her because she...
Didn't give him an heir. She was Spanish and Catholic, and everyone was then in England. They did have a very happy marriage, but he desperately needed an heir because the Tudors were a bit dodgy.
In what way?
In the claim to the throne, because they just beat Richard III on the battle. They had no bloodline. So that was why it was so important to Henry VIII to have an heir.
Why did he want a son?
Well, that's the only a son can inherit the throne in those days.
Yeah, but then it became Mary. It became his daughter.
He didn't see that coming. He was dead
So
then.
then it changed.
No, Edward VI, his son, did take over.
Yes, but then he...
Then Edward died.
Yes.
So there were no more male heirs.
Yes.
So they had to put a queen on. Nobody wanted a queen because women weren't considered up to the task. Because they couldn't go into battle and so on.
So he wanted to divorce her.
Yes.
But of course he couldn't.
The Pope said no. You've been married to her for 25 years. What are you talking about? And so the only thing...
For 25 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a long and happy marriage.
Well, maybe not happy. Because you said she was not...
She didn't give him an heir, but it doesn't mean they weren't
I know,
happy.
but you said she was disgusting.
No, that was Anne of Cleves.
Oh, goodness.
Get your queen's ring. Get your queen's ring. So, the only way to get divorced from his current wife was to break with the Pope so that he could decide to divorce his wife as head of the church. So he broke away from the Catholic Church and said he was now the supreme head of the Church of England.
So he started his own church.
Yes.
And he proclaimed himself to be the head of the church.
Supreme head, yeah.
And now, until now, today, it's always the monarch who is also the head of the Church of England.
Yes.
So Henry VIII started the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the process is called the Reformation.
Yes.
Henry VIII, 6 wives.
Yeah. Do you want to go through them?
Yes, please.
Okay.
But before, I mean, there is a little poem maybe we can mention that you can learn this. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Now I know the poem, but Sarah will tell us about
Catherine
the
of
wives.
Aragon, Spanish Catholic. He did divorce her.
Yes.
She never accepted it, but she died of old age, quietly.
Yeah, so he divorced her, and that
in order
led
to marry
this.
Anne Boleyn, who was his mistress, and very Protestant, and pushed him towards Protestantism. But she only produced a daughter, which was going to be Elizabeth
Yes,
I.
the first.
And so she wasn't producing any sons, so he decided to get rid of her.
Yes.
Tried to prove that she committed incest and adultery.
Yes,
but
and was she
nobody knows.
beheaded at the Tower of London?
She was. Then he married Jane Seymour. I think the day after Anne Boleyn was beheaded, he married Jane Seymour. I know.
Quick, very quick.
And she had been Anne Boleyn's lady-in-waiting. And she did give him a son who later became Edward VI, but she died a fortnight after giving birth of what they call puerperal fever, basically in childbirth. So she died. Then, now there was a gap. So he looked around Europe and thought, now, who can I marry? She's got to be a Protestant, can't have a Catholic. So he looked towards the Dutch, German part of the world. And it was sent a portrait of this very pretty girl called Anne of Cleves. So he said, right, I'll have her. So she came over to England, poor soul. He took one look at her and went, no, she's not nearly as pretty as her portrait.
But he married her.
Well, I think that was more of a sort of formality. I'm not sure.
Because then he later divorced her.
Yeah, and they agreed to divorce. She said, fine, I don't want to marry you either. And she spent the rest of her life living quietly and happily in England. She never went home, but he kept paying her. She had plenty of money.
Perfect.
She really came out well.
Nice.
She didn't have to marry the
And didn't have
awful
to
man.
be with, yes.
Anyway, so then he thought, right, he looked around the court and he saw Catherine Howard, who was a very pretty little girl, daughter of one of the major families in the country. And she didn't behave very well.
Yeah, apparently she
was flirting around and misbehaved.
Yes,
but she was about 18 and not very bright, probably. And I feel sorry for her. But yeah, she was beheaded.
She was.
So by
Again at the Tower of London. Did
yes,
they all?
yeah, it's always the
end
Tower of
up
London.
there?
Then he married Catherine Parr, who was a middle-aged, older lady at the time, and she looked after him in his old age, and
She survived him.
And she survived him, and subsequently married the love of her life, which it ended happily.
Perfect. So you know all about his wives.
Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Catherine Howard, Catherine Parr.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. So that's Henry VIII.
Yep.
And his wives.
Yep.
When Henry VIII died, he
Yep.
was succeeded by his son.
The only surviving heir to the throne, who was Jane Seymour's son.
And he became Edward
The sixth.
And he was very Protestant.
Very.
And what we need to mention is that the Book of Common Prayer.
I was brought up in the Church of England, and I was brought up on the Book of Common Prayer, and it was written by Archbishop Cranmer, basically. And if you do read it, it is the most beautiful English. Because it was always read aloud to the congregation, it has a rhythm. And
Wow.
to read it, you just sort of, it's beautiful.
English is a stress time language. So it is rhythmical.
There you go.
So that everything just
Yeah.
makes sense and ties in. What happened when Edward VI died? He was 15.
Yep, he died, and there was no male heir. So Mary Tudor, being Catherine of Aragon's daughter, Catholic, took the throne. She has gone down in history to be known as Bloody Mary.
Yes.
She burned at the stake Protestants and so on.
She persecuted the.
But there's a very famous cocktail in England called the
Bloody
Bloody Mary,
Mary.
Tomato juice with,
Yes,
with
yeah.
vodka. And it's named after that queen. There you go.
So she was very Catholic. She persecuted the Protestants.
Protestants, yes. See, Edward VI persecuted Catholics.
Yes.
Mary comes to the throne and persecutes Protestants. So the English are a little bit confused.
She died and then
Elizabeth I.
became the queen.
Yeah.
And we will talk about Elizabeth I.
And Elizabeth
later.
I was Anne Boleyn's daughter.
Yes.
So, Protestant.
As always, we will now give you the questions. Can you please pause the video and try to see if your knowledge is up to
And I hope we've
standards.
explained it sufficiently.
Good. So question number 1.
Right, now, which of the following statements is correct? A. The marriage between Henry VIII and Anne of Cleves ended in divorce. Or B. The marriage between Henry VIII and Anne of Cleves ended with her execution. And the answer is, of course, that it ended in a very peaceable divorce. 2. 1485. The Wars of the Roses ended with which battle? A. The Battle of Bolton Field. B. The Battle of Bakewell Field. C. The Battle of Bognor Field. Or D. The Battle of Bosworth Field. And the answer is Bosworth Field. 3. The Church of England is a Protestant church and has existed since which event? A. The Realization. B. The Reformation. C. The Reorganization. Or D. The Renaissance. And it's B. The Reformation. 4. Which monarch established the Church of England? A. Henry VIII. B. Elizabeth I. C. Edward I. Or D. Henry VIII. And it is, of course, Henry VIII.
Or Henry
Seventh.
VII.
Last one was 7, sorry.
But the answer is A. Henry VIII. Perfect. I hope you have enjoyed this video. You have found it useful. If you have, please like it, share it and subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Bye.